Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Jen and Stacy Conkey, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited about our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. And then we want to talk about what you guys are working on today, and then anything you want to talk about that you're working on for tomorrow, okay?
Absolutely.
So Jen, let's start with you. Where were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles, California on September 23rd, 1974. Don't know how specific you want to get.
That was very specific.
So specific.
Well, let me ask you a question. How detail-oriented are you, big guy?
Right? I'm not usually very detail-oriented, but I will tell you.
Right. I'm not looking for shoe size or blood type. We're good.
It's all good. That's an A positive also. I just like to interject humor. Yeah, I grew up. I was born.
I love you already, just so we're clear.
Thank you. I grew up in Los Angeles. You know, my parents, they got a divorce when I was 3. And so I went with mom. Mom went to Sacramento and my dad stayed in LA.
Yeah.
And that was just, 7 years from the ages of 3 to 10, my mom just watching her struggle and be a single mom and try to figure it out. And things just weren't really working or lining up for her. Mm-hmm. So I know that at a young age, I witnessed that and thinking to myself, I don't ever want to end up like this. Yeah. The struggle factor is real. And my relationship with money at ages 0 through 10 was very much impacted by my mom's influence. It was like, be thrifty. I actually used to go to thrifties and get the most you can for your money. Then, bad things happened where she didn't have the mindset to continue to march on and really thrive in a way that she could keep me and give me the life that she wanted me to have. So when I was 10, my dad came in. Then ages 10 through 18, it was all about a different set of belief systems, a different language, really. My dad was like, hey, you got to go to college. You've got to buy a house, which means you got to get a job where you're making 6 figures a year minimum. Now, this is back in 1984. Well, so that may as well have been $1 million,
It's expensive to live in Los Angeles, right?
Right. So me growing up thinking my dad had his, what I call poop in one sock. He had it all together. His crap was together. And I wanted to be like that because I didn't observe him living paycheck to paycheck. In fact, his message was, you got to build wealth. And in order to build wealth, you got to buy stocks and you got to buy real estate. Mm-hmm. So I spent my 20s going to school full-time while working full-time because I still had the beliefs from when, I lived with my mom. So it was like, I got to hurry up and make money. There's only so much time. I got to hurry up and make money. That was my mentality. And what was crazy about it is that I still had the financial literacy of a consumer. So I would go make a whole bunch of money and then I would turn around and spend a whole bunch of money because I thought that if I bought the things that make me look cool and I feel cool, then I'll probably get the respect that I deserve. And I mean, just ask me what I thought was cool, rims for my car, stereo system for my car, the best, Air Jordans around, what you name it, I was buying it for status. So I was pretty money and status motivated in my early 20s. And it wasn't until I was about 28 years old, when it was back in 2002 and early 2003 when I decided to start flipping houses. Oh yeah, my dad, he said, get into real estate. So I started buying real estate and flipping houses. And then I ended up realizing that was just basically exchanging my time for money. And what would happen if I could get a little bit more passive and a little bit more rents coming in. So I started segueing and transitioning into buy and holds of all of the plexes, duplexes, triplexes, quads. And really just while working in corporate America for 12 years, doing that on the side. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until about 2015 when I met Stacy, where I realized, wait a minute, I want to go bigger. I want to learn how to do apartments. I had met her. She was already doing apartments. And
Mhm.
at this point in time, if I go back a little bit, when I was 36, I was married and I had twins.
Okay.
And so, and then, like maybe 16 days later, 17 days later, I turned 37.
Mhm.
So had kids later in life, which was a plan. I didn't want to have them early. I didn't want to, I was about me and trying to make money.
Mhm.
So by the time the twins came around and they were 3, now it's, they're almost 4. It's 2015. And I'm realizing I'm not getting that much time with them. And just something just shifts inside of you when you have kids. I
Mhm.
think, you understand that, knowing
Yeah.
all the parenting that you've shared with us.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't enough for me. I was only seeing them about an hour and a half a day while working in corporate America. And it wasn't enough. I wasn't getting the time with them that I wanted in their most developmental years. So I wanted more. And by the time I met Stacy and she was doing apartments, I was like, well, if I could just go bigger,
Mhm.
maybe more cash flow will come in. And by then I had already learned how to button things down, not really be a consumer anymore. I stopped buying all the fancy watches and all the stuff and just
Yeah.
really started doubling down on building true wealth.
Right.
And like I said, kids, they shifted me.
Yeah.
And then I met Stacy and, we've been doing real estate all the way since 2015 up until this very moment. We still do it.
Yeah.
But, what we're focused on is multifamily assets. We have our own portfolio. We've been building, we've got about 2,500 doors. We build this up. Then we have a capital company where we raise money from
Mhm.
others and then invest in deals. They could be our own deals. They could be RV parks, mobile home parks, different asset classes, if you
Right.
will. And then we also have an academy where we teach people how to acquire multifamily assets using the same blueprint that we had,
That's
or that
beautiful.
we have used and still use to this day. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much my life story in a nutshell up
No,
until now.
you
I
missed
missed?
one.
What
Yeah,
else?
become unshackled.
Oh, I forgot about our fourth company. That's right. Our fourth company is
this is the one that fuels your soul.
yeah, this is
woman.
the one that fuels my soul for sure. So I've always been about mindset, right? I watched my mom struggle at an early age and realized that what happens up here is about 80% of life, and
Mhm.
it's really important. So I spent my entire life working on professional development. We're probably at about 30 years now of me just going for it, reading every dang book I could get my hands on, becoming an NLP Master Practitioner, hypnotherapist, doing mental emotional release, all of those things to really help people,
Mhm.
especially those that were struggling with that mindset that I witnessed and observed in my mom, to
Mhm.
try and help them. I have a special place in my heart for single mothers. It's hard. It's not easy. I've watched it. I mean, I watched it on the side where I was a kid. I don't know about it as a mom until, oh, wait a minute, when I went through a divorce and
Yeah.
the twins were 2.
Yeah.
So then I saw and felt firsthand what that felt like. And then
Mhm.
I was really about it. So
Yeah.
I am so into personal development and mindset that my real estate portfolio sort of gives me the space because
Mhm.
it pays for everything to go play and help others. So we launched our fourth company, which is Become Unshackled. And we have events where people can come. I can identify their limiting beliefs, rewire them, and help them break through and just release themselves from those self-imposed shackles that they have on themselves. And that is what actually fires me
Mhm.
more than real estate. So I'm pretty
Well, the
pumped.
thing is, and from your background, right, from the time that you spent with your mom, there's a certain amount of I don't ever want to go there again financially, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a fire, that's a fuel, right? And then you spend time with your dad where now you're looking at, okay, I got to accumulate wealth. You're uber motivated because of your experience with your mom, and then you've got dad going, look, this has got to happen. I mean, it's almost you almost grew up with the perfect childhood.
You know what? I had to rewrite my story and come up with that narrative, but you're right, Mike. That's exactly how I
I mean,
look at
it's
it.
like, you know what I mean? It's like
I had both
it's-
sides of the railroad tracks.
yeah, like one of the reasons we do this podcast is we get people's life stories, and at the end of it, people are like, you know what? I'm really grateful for the way I was raised. I'm really grateful for the things that happened, right? At the time, it's tough, and it was tough to go through and all that kind of thing. But now looking back on it, you're like, I'm a better person because of this, right? I
Totally.
mean, this is cool. So let me ask you this. When you were with your mom, what was your favorite thing about your time with her?
That would be when I discovered myself. I have a story that I always tell people from stage about how Doritos changed my life.
Okay.
And they
I
absolutely
can't
did.
wait to hear this.
Yeah. Doritos fundamentally changed my life. I was on my way home from school. I was about 10 years old and I had a bag of Doritos in my backpack that I didn't finish from lunch. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity to just eat them on my walk home.
Sure.
And I was walking past the high school and there was all these teenagers out on the lawn and it kind of smelt funny, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They had bongs, they had all the things with the roach clips, all the things. And I recognized it because,
Good.
you know, my mom and all of my family, that's what it smelled like at home. So I was like, oh, I know what they're doing. They're going to be hungry soon, right? But I'm walking by and I'm ready to grab those Doritos and open them. And they're like, hey, little girl, how much for that bag of Doritos? And it's 1984. And what comes out of my mouth is shocking. But I said, $5. And they gave me $5.
Yeah, they did.
And that was like, in that moment, I was like, wait a minute, this is how I can make money.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I went back home, got mom's little pack of chips. And I was like, I'm going to just sell these every day and I won't need chips in my lunch.
Right.
And then I would go and buy more chips. And I started creating this little side hustle for myself so that if I wanted McDonald's, I'd go get it. If I wanted something else, I'd go get it. So that was probably my favorite part, was just the sense of adventure of finding myself out. Plus, I spent a lot of time at the lake with my mom and just doing really cool, like adventurous things that you don't really think to do when you have a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, you go do the less expensive thing that's more in nature, and really just appreciating things differently. So that part of my life, I identify as a hippie. I'm barefoot as much as I can. I'm grounding outside. I love nature, anything outdoors. And that's, I know that that's because of the childhood that I had with my mom, because she didn't have any money to take me anywhere. So between that and then selling those Doritos, it transformed me.
What an entrepreneur. You're
Totally.
the same kind of person that goes out and sets up a Dunkin' Donuts right next to a pot dispensary.
I absolutely would.
I'm messing with you. But I love that, man. I love that. That's a great story.
Thank you.
Okay, so the rest of your time that you spent in Los Angeles with your dad, what was your favorite thing about that time?
I would have to say with my dad, it was about sports and different level of water sports. You know, he had a boat. I learned how to water ski. I was seriously about to go pro when I had an accident rollerblading down a hill that I shouldn't have been on. And it changed me a little bit, but then I ended up on the back of the tube and having more fun and playing more games. Probably the best part of growing up with my dad was just, he always had fun with us. He was the kind of guy that would come pick you up at school and you didn't know it. And he would just take you to Magic Mountain, or he would take you to Disneyland, or he'd pretend he was driving you to school and then you'd end up at Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm.
I like this guy.
Yeah, he was just like full of surprises. So he taught me that in a life where all you want is certainty, variety can be fun. And if you keep it sporadic like that, you really just, wow, the element of surprise can be so cool.
Well, spontaneity is a cool thing, right? I mean,
absolutely.
You know? Okay, so let me ask you this. In high school, did you have a favorite subject?
I did. It was history and war.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I've always been a massive strategist. I love the strategies of war. The 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene is like one of my favorite books, apart from The Art of War from Sun Tzu. I'm just absolutely, I marvel at it because there's so much leadership and planning and execution involved. And I think that probably comes from my dad's side, because we would watch old documentaries on the History Channel and I would just be like, that's fascinating. And looking at how people would approach things differently would give me ideas on how to approach life in the same manner. And I've just always been able to make those connections. I could look at somebody else's example and say, oh, here's what they did at a high level framework. If I did that too, I believe in benchmarking and modeling success. If I go do that, then it's going to shortcut my learning curve and I can just get right into it and then apply it the way that I think I should.
That's incredibly wise, by the way, right? Learning from somebody else's mistakes.
Absolutely.
Okay. A little bit of a shortcut there. It's kind of cool.
It is. And I think that's why I liked history so much, is I saw so many examples of what to do or what not to do. And then I could develop my own. Yeah. So I loved history.
By the way, the thing you mentioned about having kids completely rocked my world.
Yeah.
Like I became a blubbering idiot. I never cried before. I never, you know what I mean? And especially when my daughter was born, my friends found out that we were having a little girl and they haven't stopped laughing since. It's been 22 years. Okay. They're like, oh, you're done for. That's it. You're done. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah,
She's
no,
got
I
me-
get it.
She's
I'm
got me
49
wrapped
years old
around
and
her
I'm
little finger, man.
yeah, I'm 49 years old and I'm still on my dad's payroll. He's still on my finger. It's
Yeah.
great. Like
Yeah.
being a daddy's girl, there's nothing more special.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
All right. Stacy, it's your turn. Where were you born?
I was born in Simi Valley, California,
Yeah.
Ventura County.
That's wow. So you guys weren't born that far apart.
You know what's crazy is
Not many days apart either.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're like literally a few weeks apart.
Wow.
But I ended up finding out that Jen's mom went to the same high school that I did, like in
Wow.
Simi Valley, Royal High School. It was
Yeah.
like, whoa, it's
It's a
crazy.
small world.
Tiny
Yeah.
world, you guys. It's a tiny world.
Yeah.
So you were born in Simi Valley. Did you grow up there?
Yes.
So what was your favorite thing about growing up in Simi Valley?
Oh my gosh. I think, Simi Valley was, I didn't really know or appreciate this at the time, but it was a fairly safe community. And I was, like most 80s kids, I was a latchkey kid. My mom was a single mom working full time. And so I was super independent. I could ride my bike or take the bus or whatever. And I never had a sense of fear or concern about my safety. So I think that would probably be my favorite thing about growing up in that area is I could adventure out without like being, freaked out like kids these days, especially post COVID, seem to be.
Right.
I'm very appreciative that I didn't have to live that way.
I got you. So I forgot one question, Jen. Let me back up for just a second. Who was the most influential person to you growing up?
Ooh. My dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guessed that, but I wanted to ask.
Yeah. I
It-
mean,
You
or my
understand why,
or
right?
his mother. It's a tie between him or his mom.
Yeah.
But both of them were equally like they were really influential for me.
Yeah.
A lot of leadership.
Gotcha. So Stacy, same question.
Oh my gosh. I literally can't think of like who influenced me. Nobody. I was just on my own. But realistically, I don't know about influence, but I connected better with my dad. Like I could relate to him better.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he influenced me. I'm like, have I ever said anything that
I
tells
think
you
it
somebody
is your
influenced
dad. I really do
Yeah.
because I know him and he's
Yeah.
super high level, like cool, crazy ideas kind of guy and will implement it. He's an entrepreneur. You get a lot of that.
He likes to embarrass his kids, and I like to embarrass my
You
kids.
do.
So maybe
you got your sense of wanting security from your mom, but I think you got your sense of adventure from your dad. That's just me.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm so glad she's here.
I am going to, okay. Sorry, something very loud happening right over there. I was like, oh, I don't know if you can hear that.
I can't.
Oh,
Oh,
thank God.
good.
Okay. Because I was like, I can't even hear you. Okay. Anyway, if you asked a question, I could not hear you. It's
I
like,
didn't ask your question. I just said I'm really glad Jen is here.
oh, same.
Thank you, Mike.
You're helping a
Is
lot.
it-
I appreciate you. So Stacy, question for you. In high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Yeah. I'd say math. Up until I was done with high school, I think math was my favorite subject. It was when I got to college, towards the end of high school, it started moving into calculus, and it was no longer my favorite anymore. It was like my skills didn't go that far.
Yeah. Well, calculus will ruin it for everybody, right?
Pretty much.
You know, I mean, so let me ask you this. So after high school, where do you go?
So right after high school, I ended up going to junior college, Moore Park Junior College, for a couple of years. And my thought at the time, my favorite subject was chemistry. Oh, it's been so long that I've literally forgotten. My favorite subject was chemistry. I loved math. So I was like, I'm going to go be a pharmacist. Even though my parents neither of them were broke or poor, but they acted like they were. They had a really a broke mentality. And then I look at their parents, I'm like, maybe that was it. But like my mom's parents were like in the yacht club. So I was like, I don't understand. My dad's parents were legit poor.
Yeah.
But my parents grew up with such a poor mentality, even though we weren't poor, neither of them were poor. I was very, very money motivated because as a very independent person, I wanted to make sure that I was never in a situation where I had to always buy clothes. This sounds stupid, but it would always be, I had to shop at the clearance rack.
Mhm.
And, and the clothes were fine, but I was just like, I just don't want to have to do that. So I was super money motivated. So I was like
I don't think that's stupid. Kids are mean. And when you're not wearing like the mean brand, I went through that. So I don't think that's stupid.
And
I'm sorry.
my mom would like, get patterns and sew me clothes. And I was like, and now I'm like, that was so sweet. Back then I was like, I want to die. I went to a private school, which is probably why we were broke, because she spent all her money to send me to private school. But at that point, that where it really becomes different, because kids in private school, usually the parents have money and we didn't. So I was very money motivated. And so when I was in high school and I was looking at careers, I was like, well, let's narrow it down. What makes a lot of money? What do I like? Okay, I'm going to go to become a pharmacist.
Right.
So that was when I entered college, that was my whole goal. Then I got into physics and organic chemistry and realized maybe not.
Pass.
I just didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, I just don't get it. And I'm not dumb, but I was
now we need a list of, we can make a lot of money, but how do we do it without math? Right? I mean, come on,
Yeah. So that kind of dwindled, and I ended up I took an accounting class once, and I was like, oh, I'll take this accounting class. Mike, the debits equal the credits. And I was like, it was like the most wonderful, magical thing ever. And I sound like the biggest dork on earth, but that's how it landed. I was like, this is so logical.
Yeah.
And I like things that are logical, and ABC and accounting so that was it for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The debits equal the credits. It's wonderful.
It is.
Right. I mean, How to Make Accounting Sexy by Stacy Conkey. Right. I mean, wow.
I had a great teacher.
I've literally never heard it explained that way. But now I'm going to go back and look at my accounting textbook again and see what I missed. I love this. This is awesome. So for community college, where do you go?
So I went to Moore Park College for community college, and then I went to CSU Stanislaus, which is up in like Central California.
Yeah.
Then ended up transferring to Sacramento State for the end, which is where I ended up, getting hired for my post-college job and things like that. So yeah, kind of went through Turlock up to Sacramento.
What'd you get your degree in?
Accounting, like business administration at the specialty in accounting.
Well, I was kind of hoping it was accounting after all that. Wow. Okay.
So I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. So now you're in accounting, which is obviously your calling, right? And where's your first job?
So I worked at Arthur Andersen, which, doesn't exist anymore. But at the time I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get into one of the big five.
Yeah.
I haven't been at Sac State for long enough. I haven't been part of this fraternity. It was called a fraternity, even though it was men and women, but it was a fraternity back there. And it was all about trying to get hired at one of the big five. So I did the best I could. I got in there and I did end up getting hired. I got 4 of the 5 got job offers, and Arthur Andersen back then was, at least in Sacramento, that was like the one you wanted. And so that was the direction I went, which became a really good foundation for my career in corporate America for, the little while that it lasted.
How long were you in corporate America?
A few years. So I left in 2003. I graduated from college in 1999, and I left to become an entrepreneur in 2003. So
what made you make that leap?
Tony Robbins.
Yeah. When I was working at my job, I had a traumatic event happen. I was the controller for this public company, and so there was a CFO. Mm-hmm. And we had an earnings call that was coming up the next day. My job was to always prepare all the financials, prepare all the scripts and everything for the CFO to talk to the shareholders the next day. And while I'm preparing everything and finalizing it that night, I get a call from the CEO letting me know they've let her go.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.